What's up, y'all? How's it going? Welcome back to another movie review. Today we're going to be talking about The Batman. I saw it this past Tuesday. I thought it was great. I made a video right then and there, and I looked back, and I was way too excited and couldn't get my thoughts in order, so I just took a couple days and chilled out. I wrote my thoughts down just now, like right before recording this video. So while I'm in this organized mindset, I figured now is the opportunity to talk about it. So I want to highlight the importance of a functional beginning of a movie. Stop. Whoa, hold on. If you've gotten this far and you haven't seen the movie yet, stop, because I will be spoiling everything. If I bring it up, I will mention it in detail. So you've been warned. Back to the video. Before I get into it, let me talk about what I mean by the beginning. Everything between the Riddler's introduction and killing those couple of people, all the way until the end of Batman beating up those villains. In this movie, that's what I'm considering the opening. So the beginning was great. What the beginning in this movie aims to do is establish a status quo that we can cling to that serves as kind of a backdrop to make everything else that they bring up believable for what these characters are and what this world is. And so it sets a standard for three things. First, the Riddler being a truly evil and scary villain. It gives the audience a reason to fear him. We see him spying on this guy and his family, you know what I mean? He sneaks into the house and he's just standing there, just watching. He's not even doing anything. He's just waiting for his opportunity, and until he's satisfied with what he's seen, and then he goes in and kills the guy pretty violently. It's a very violent scene. And what it does, it gives the audience a reason to fear him. Later on in this movie, we learn more of his story and his plans for the city, and it all holds that much more importance because of how serious we know he is. We've seen it already. We've seen what this guy what this guy is willing to do. He's insane. Number two, arguably the most important one, is the city. The city really is as bad as the Riddler and Batman are saying it is. It's terrible. We quickly witness a gas station robbery, gang violence, some hints about the organized crime in the city as well, but this isn't even that. This is just the random violence. And finally, the last bit of the city we see is some random guy getting jumped for no reason. This whole, group of people just start beating him up. To compare it to another movie you may be familiar with, The Dark Knight. The beginning scene there sets a kind of similar standard with how easy it is to conduct those very intricate bank heists in the middle of broad daylight as the Joker. And it makes the Joker seem scary. And what they say to the city is, this goes a step further, and not only do we get the Riddler being crazy, not only do we get the city, on a, not just for bankers, but for day-to-day people, you know what I mean? You're just working at your gas station, someone comes up with a gun. You know what I mean? You're sitting on a train, you get up to leave, and you get jumped. You know what I mean? It sucks. It's awful. It's hellish. It's very crazy. But finally, the one thing that we get in this opening that we didn't get in the Dark Knight one is some Batman connected to it. In The Dark Knight, Batman is fighting the Scarecrow, and it was kind of a separate thing. It wasn't part of the opening per se. But this one is. The movie really wants us to understand the point of view of these criminals. Batman is something to fear. And we're shown everything, thankfully, as opposed to just, them saying, oh, everyone's scared of him, but not actually bearing witness to it. We get to see the same criminals from earlier robbing the gas station now peering into the darkness after having glanced up at the sky and seeing the bat symbol. He's looking around. Oh my God, did I just hear something? No, it couldn't be him. It isn't him, but he's scared. And even though Batman doesn't emerge for that criminal specifically, we still get that, dang, this guy really is that scared of him. And for good reason too. We get why they're scared when Batman finally comes out to save the guy who's getting jumped in the middle of the subway. He comes out all slow and scary and, downright hospitalizes someone off rip. The rest of the group tries to throw hands with him, and they get beaten very badly as well until they just leave. They run away. With the exception of the one kid who, every scene we had seen him in up until that point, he'd been kind of acting. We were under the impression as the audience that he didn't want to be there. This wasn't something he wanted to be involved with. He wasn't a violent criminal. He wasn't a bad guy. That man doesn't lay a finger on him. He still remains there, scary, towering above him, because that's how he believes he should be viewed, but he doesn't harm him. Batman only reciprocates violence in this point of the movie because he is embodying his spirit of vengeance. He's not the instigator. It's not for a specific purpose. It's purely out of vengeance. And I thought that was pretty powerful. I thought that was well done. So that quick 5 to 10 minute opening not only sets the whole tone for the movie, but it makes everything they want us to believe about the characters believable. We've seen it already, you know what I mean? We understand what they are, what they represent, what they do, and even a bit of why they do what they do. Not necessarily, obviously, it's the opening, they'll get into that more, but they kind of lay the groundwork. So it's like, dang, I totally get that from earlier. We've seen a little bit of that already. This opening backdrop for the movie helps make things outside of the opening scene a little bit more believable and important as well. The one I'll talk about today is Catwoman. Catwoman is really, in the mix of everything. We've seen firsthand how bad the city can be already. And she offers a perspective of it as someone who's currently living and fighting in it. Fighting her way out. And her hold on Batman's heart influences his take on vengeance later in the movie. If you remember, if you've seen the movie already, Batman has a little bit initial apathy for Annika's death. Not necessarily, not even just apathy. I was personally grossed out by him. Like, God, he really just said that? It was something along the lines of, she got what she deserved. She was messing with things she shouldn't have been messing with, and she knew she shouldn't have been messing with, and even though she didn't do any harm, that's what she gets for messing with it. That is a bad way to look at things. That's a complete lack of care for the situation, for the person. It is intentional ignorance, and it is very not justice. And Catwoman recognizes that and argues on behalf of Annika. What did you just say? That's messed up. You know what I mean? And she is able to help Batman see. He helps Batman realize he can't just dole out punishment. He has to help prop up the good and the innocent in the city as well. It's not enough to reciprocate violence and not protect people. Moving on, let's talk about a little bit of the inspiration for the movie. I had seen The Seven in preparation for the movie. I had heard lots of things about how The Seven was a very good detective movie. It's one of the greats, and I totally see how it influenced the villain. Not necessarily all of the detective work, but the villain most definitely. The villain had an ideology that he wanted to share through the use of his killings. He turned himself in because at that point everything was already going to unfold. His plan was a success, and then it was a success, and the aftermath of the movie is how the characters grow from it. And so it was pretty similar to The Seven in that way, but it wasn't like a direct copy or anything by any means. I thought, to be honest, I saw more of The Long Halloween in this movie than I did The Seven, specifically in the mafia boss connections, the Thomas Wayne start of the city things. All of it is directly from the comics. I was hoping for some Court of Owls action because I'm a huge nerd, but I was very satisfied with what was presented to me. So The Long Halloween was definitely a huge inspiration for parts of the detective side of the story. And I think, obviously, Batman Hush was a lot of Catwoman's story as well, most specifically her final lines of, oh, your heart's already spoken for kind of thing, that, you're you're Batman. You literally cannot do anything else. Which I thought was cool. I thought they did that well. I personally would have given up being Batman for Zoe Kravitz, though. We are not the same man. Now, I have heard lots of complaints about this Batman being too dark. You know, it's something we haven't really seen before in Batman, especially not, or specifically not on the big screen. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. This is a dark Batman because this is still year 2 Batman. This movie is not, if we were to comparing it to The Dark Knight again, this movie is not about an ideological conflict that ends with Batman beating the villain, like in The Dark Knight. It ends with an ideological conflict that ends with the villain beating Batman. Batman didn't succeed in the end, tried as hard as he could. He realized vengeance is not going to win the day. The way he had been doing things not only created a environment in which this kind of, villain can be born, but it was not enough to stop that villain either. This movie is about him doing his best and how the whole city grows and recovers from the aftermath. It's the story is Batman's change, his transition from vengeance to justice. The difference in the Batman and Riddler's ideology is reflected at the end of their conflict. The Riddler succeeded. The Riddler succeeded in destroying all of the institutions he hated. He brought the city to its knees. He got what he wanted, and he believed that the city would change in the way that he wanted it to as well. He was wrong. While the city was bad, as we've seen throughout the movie, Batman is the one who brings the real change. More so than just the physical destruction that the Riddler caused, Batman sparks the change. Batman holds that power. He had already done so in a negative way, and he is now aiming to do so in a positive way. He learns to do so as a symbol of hope and as the hammer of justice. So, I thought they did pretty good on that. I personally enjoyed the movie very, very much. That's obviously, I can talk about the movie for a whole other 30 minutes. But this is just a little intro to what I thought about the movie. Comment below what you thought, and I'll see you in the next video. That's it. Peace out. It ends with an ideological conflict that ends with the villain beating Batman. Batman didn't